Hello and welcome back to Mr. Miller's Art Room. Today we are going to be creating an artwork inspired by Polynesian Tapa cloth. The Tapa cloth is created by beating and soaking the bark of a mulberry tree, and then they're set onto wooden planks that have designs cut into them. After that, they utilize a series of natural dyes and pigments in order to create different symmetrical designs of natural shapes and geometric patterns. While we don't have any wood planks with carved patterns on them, we do have a few items that we're going to utilize in order to create such an artwork. The first thing you're going to need is a 12 by 18 brown piece of paper, one 6-inch by 9-inch construction piece of paper. It doesn't have to be black, but for our purposes, I'm using black. I happen to like that because it's easy to see the lines that we're going to create. You'll need a set of age-appropriate scissors, a white color pencil, crayon or oil pastel, and some colored chalk. Tapa cloth designs are typically geometrical in nature. Sometimes they use organic shapes like the shape of a leaf. What we're going to need to do to create our geometric design is to fold this paper in half because we want it to be symmetrical. Symmetrical is when a shape or design looks the same on two or more sides. The first thing I'm going to do is take my paper and turn it so that it's vertical. Next, I'm going to pull from the top all the way down so that the corners meet the corners and edges meet the edges. I'm going to use both hands to get it there, and then once I like where it is, I'll use my thumbs to pin it down, press down with my fingers, and then I've got the paper properly folded. The next thing that you need to understand is that this side, the crease side, is the important side. Our shapes that we draw need to be starting on and ending on the crease. We don't want to be anywhere near the corners of the crease or near the flappy sides. And one last thing is that we need to make sure that the shapes that we draw on here don't touch each other. If they do and we cut along those lines, the whole piece will fall apart. We need to utilize this piece of paper as a stencil. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to use this oil pastel because it's going to show really well on this camera, I want to create a series of geometric designs. Now, you don't want it to be too complicated because if you make it too complicated or add too many shapes, it's not going to be a very effective stencil. It'll be too flimsy and weak. You don't want it to be too simple because, well, that's not going to be very visually interesting. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one that is just geometric in nature. Maybe I'll start with a rectangle. The next one I'm going to do is this zigzag. And now I want to address some of this space in here. To add an organic element, I made this sort of stem-like, leaf-like shape. Now the next thing I need to do is cut this out. Typically I'd use this pair of scissors for myself, but just to show you that it can be done, I'm going to use this smaller set of scissors. When you begin to cut these shapes out, you want to make sure that you open the jaws of your scissors nice and wide. The scissors should always be pointing away from you. And what's more, if you need to make a turn, don't turn your wrist. You're going to turn the paper. Little tiny nibbles will get it done. You're going to try to follow the shape, follow the line of the shape as much as you can. And when you get to a point where maybe you have a really sharp angle change, one of the things you can do is pull your scissors out, reset it, and place it in. You need to make sure that you're cutting through both layers of paper. Notice that my scissor angle has never changed. It's the paper that's changing. Once you've cut it out, then what you're going to do is just take this piece, you can set it aside because it's not necessary. The necessary part, the important part, is the stencil. We're going to go ahead and cut out the rest of these. Now that I have my stencil cut out, I can carefully open up the stencil, and what you see here is a symmetrical design. Kind of looks like a smiley face. What we're going to do then is place our stencil on top of our brown paper. We're going to move this aside, and one thing that you can do to help yourself is if you have about 2 pieces of tape, and you can tape this down, I'll show you in just a moment, it can help control the paper a little bit better. Press the paper down so it's more flat. Put this tape on one side and the other. You don't really want to paste it down too hard because you're going to need to peel this back up in order to continue your design. One of the techniques that they utilize in order to get a design onto their cloth is by using a piece of ochre or rust oxide, and they use their scissors as a scraping tool. Keep your scissor closed. Just use the edge of your scissors to scrape from the chalk some chalk dust onto your piece. You don't need a lot. You just need a little bit. A little bit goes a long way. Once we're done that, what we're going to do is set the chalk aside, and we're going to need both hands for this process. You're going to press the stencil down, and you're going to rub the chalk into the space of the negative shape. We're going to do this for all of the shapes. You want to make sure that with some of the more sensitive areas, like around here where the stencil gets a little bit thin, you really support the stencil by pressing it down onto the paper. After you've completed that, you're going to carefully peel your stencil up from the paper, and you will notice that we have our design. You can just give it a little blow. There you go. Now what we can do is either use a different color chalk or the same color chalk. It's up to you. You're the artist. We're going to place this stencil down, and we're going to continue the process until we have a completed design. I mentioned that symmetrical shapes are shapes or designs that are the same on two or more sides. If you so choose and you feel secure enough in your abilities, you can actually create one extra fold in this piece of paper to create what's called a quadrilateral symmetrical design. Step one is I'm going to fold it down like we did the first time, corner to corner, edge to edge. Then I'm going to turn the paper, take one of my fingers and put it in about the middle side of this crease because this construction paper is kind of hardy and difficult to manipulate. We're then going to go corner to corner, edge to edge, make sure it's exactly where you want it, pin it down with your hands, and we're going to do one more fold. The same rules apply, but with the cutting of the shapes. But now we have two creased sides. We have this one, and we have this one. We need to stay away from the corners of the paper and from the flappy sides, or our entire stencil will fall apart. Once again, don't want our design to be too complicated, and we're going to utilize this pastel or pencil, whatever you're going to be utilizing to draw the lines, in order to create the design. I decided for this one to go with this curved triangle, but once again, you're the artist. You can choose what you need to do. I stayed away from the edges and I stayed away from the corners, except for you can cut into the creased corner edge. Once again, I'm going to use these scissors to show you that even with these smaller scissors, we can cut through all the layers of paper. I'm going to go ahead and cut these out and show you what the result is. Now that I've cut it out, I'm going to set these extra pieces aside. I don't need them anymore, and we'll carefully open up this stencil, and we have a brand new design. I got two pieces of tape. I taped it down. I'm going to use a different piece of chalk, like this blue piece of chalk, and I'm going to go ahead and start doing my scraping onto the stencil. Once I have enough chalk on there, I'm going to support the stencil with one hand, and with the other hand, I'm going to rub onto these shapes that I've cut out. Once I'm done that process, I'm going to gently peel the stencil up off of the paper, blow off the extra, and I've got a brand new design. There you have it. Now I have a whole set of designs on this one piece of paper. One thing you can think of doing is possibly even sharing your design with your neighbor, and you can trade and have a variety of different designs on one piece of paper. I hope you had as much fun as I did creating your design. From Mr. Monocle and I, we say good day.
We said good day.